Hi gang, Jeff McAleer once again, and today I am taking a look at Illusions of Glory, the Great War on the Eastern Front, courtesy of our good friends at GMT Games. Illusions of Glory is actually the third game that utilizes the Paths of Glory system that Ted Racier created for that game. Paths of Glory is an exceptionally well done strategic level World War I game. And Illusions of Glory, designed by Perry R. Silverman, telescopes in a little bit. So this is the Eastern Front, and it is a strategic level war game. I will point out that it's not one of GMT's thicker boxes, but this box really does have quite a lot of heft to it. And taking a quick peek here, it is for 2 players, ages 14 and up. GMT does indicate it's a medium complexity as well as medium solitaire suitability, which is a little strange because it is a card-driven game. So kind of curious how they may have worked that out as far as with some solitaire rules. Possibly there's some AI cards within it. I'm not sure. But let's take a peek to see what we've got when we take everything outside the box. Okay, so we've got 3 decks of cards. Move these off to the side. We'll look at those in just a few. Got 2 6-sided dice. We've got rules of play with advanced rules and a playbook. And it looks like this clocks in at about 51 pages, so pretty hefty. And let's take a look. Talking about the components. And so far it doesn't look like this is as lavishly illustrated as we see many of the GMT rule books. It's more, well, the rules are usually always case point anyway, but normally we see quite a bit more illustrations. Just going through combat, retreats, advancing after combat, strategic redeployment, supply and attrition, reinforcements, replacements, war status. Then we've got some advanced rules. Trenches, flank attacks, rebellion and revolution, troop quality. Okay, just kind of flip through a little bit more here. Here's a playbook. Cool, so we get an extended example of play, as we normally see from GMT. Just looks like they've included this in a single rule book as opposed to a separate playbook. Then there's short game scenarios, some tips, and the notes on the cards, talking about the historical background of the various different cards. Cool. Alright, and then on the back we've just got some fire tables and a sequence of play. So there are the rules. Then it looks as if we've got a couple of player aids, in which we do, and they are dual-sided. Okay. Scenario card. Okay. I wonder if we've got scenario cards for each scenario. Because I know there's a campaign game, there's a mobilization scenario, there's a total war scenario. So you're not going to have to play the entire Eastern Front from 1914 to 1918 in the game. So cool, we've got more player aids. Then we've got counters. Looks pretty standard. Pretty standard war game counters there. And various different markers. Dual-sided. I'm going to take a guess this is out of supply. And a third counter sheets. Okay. And then we've got a mounted map, which I believe is fairly large, so I will probably bust out the iPhone so I can kind of get a closer look at that. So we'll take a look at the map, and I will also unwrap these cards so we can take a peek at these. As you can see, this is going to be a pretty darn good size map here. And it's kind of interesting, the map layout, because it's not square, it's rectangular. And the first thing I thought is, wow, this would actually fit nicely on, you know, a standard dining room table, because a lot of times, sometimes the bigger boards end up taking up a lot of space on some of the narrower dining room tables that people have. So when you look at this, you could actually have one player sitting down at the southern end of what I've got set up here, and the other player on the northern end. So you're not sitting way across from each other. But anyway, as we kind of take a look in, we've got a general records track. Then we have a mandatory offensive table. So it's the Allied powers. Then we got the Central powers. Various different locations of towns and cities. I'm going to take a guess. We're looking at, these are fortresses, like in Königsberg. Then we've got the Central Power action rounds and the Allied action round. Got a reserve box. The German Empire. Just kind of going down through here. Replaceable units. Then we've got the Allied powers, reserves, and replaceable units here. Then there's an Italian front, because there's actually an Italian front mini game that's included, which is kind of cool. I would say that's probably going to be a good way to get started and learn the game system. As we keep coming down, and I apologize, I'm kind of blocking out some of my lighting the way I have to shoot this. And then we get down here, we got the turn record track. And we've got some informational markers as well. And we've got the map key. There we go. And very nicely done. Very nice mounted map. All right. We have a Central Powers deck. We've got an Allied deck. And then this third deck is actually more Central Powers and Allied. So, in reality, there are two decks. And we'll just take a quick peek at some of the cards. And as you can see, it's showing limited war. Let's take a look up here. Limited total war. Mobilization. I would take a stab that, depending on the scenario that you're going to utilize, you're going to separate some of these cards out. So if you're just doing, say, mobilization, you're no doubt not going to have total war cards, possibly not limited war cards as well. But if you're playing Total War, the campaign game, you're probably going to have all of these cards. Now, I can't tell you if you're going to be separating these cards out into separate decks So early on you have mobilization cards, then limited war, then total war. But one thing I will point out is you'll see there's a value up top and then a historical event. So the Black Hand, Bulgaria, surrender of Fort Rupel, Russian war material shortage. And usually in a card-driven game, you're going to have a couple of options with your cards. You can either use the event or you can use these numbers up top for operations. Whereas Twilight Struggle utilizes a single deck, or, well, it's multiple decks that actually get shuffled together as you go along in the game. Both players actually draw from the same deck. Here, that's not going to be the case. The Central Powers have their deck, and the Allies will have their deck. So the drive on East Prussia, Russian reinforcements, no retreat, battle for Warsaw, Royal Navy blockade. Just to kind of give you an idea of some of these decks. So as far as what we've got with Illusions of Glory, we've got the big map. We've got 3 sheets of counters. We've got 2 setup player aids. We've got the 1 scenario card, a couple of combat table charts, as well as the rule book, dice, and the two decks of cards. One thing I do notice, which is kind of funny, that there are no little baggies. I didn't run across any baggies. That's usually something that we get in all GMT titles so you can sort out your counters. But regardless, that is what we've got when we take everything from Illusions of Glory, the Great War on the Eastern Front, outside the box. I will point out, this game does have an extremely nice price point from GMT. The game box is jam-packed with stuff. You get the mounted map and the various scenarios. It's $65 is the MSRP. I was a little surprised. I guess, you know, keeping those baggies out of the box really lowered the price. Because normally this is a title that I would expect to see going for about $80. Anyway, if you'd like to learn more about Illusions of Glory or any of GMT's fantastic lineup of war simulation games or any number of great GMT titles, be sure to visit gmtgames.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and for the latest in gaming news and reviews, comics, movies, TV, come on, by now you know the drill. Go get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And until next time, thanks for watching.